my channel. This is Jackie Sells Homes once again. If you haven't subscribed to my channel, please go and subscribe and make sure that you like my videos and also hit the notification bell so that you can be updated every time I get to upload a new video. Thank you so much for the support for my previous videos. I hope that we'll stay together and keep learning and growing each and every day. So today we are going to talk about the things that you need to know before investing in land in Kenya, and also get to know the different kinds of title deeds and property ownership documents used in Kenya. The first thing that you should do is to know the proper use of land. Land can either be categorized as residential use, commercial use, industrial use, or even land that belongs to, that is used for public utility. So you have to be very careful to know the kind of land investment you want to make. If it's residential, if it's industrial, if it's commercial, or if it's agricultural. And also make sure that the title deed for that land, and depending on the specific location that you want to buy, is actually ascertained for that specific use that you want to put your land into. The second thing that you should be careful about and that you need to do is to conduct a search. This is very normal for people to talk about conducting land searches, but it is more than just sending someone to go to the lands office to conduct the search on your behalf. At times, if it's possible, you can just go there yourself and make sure that you apply for the search yourself. This is because there are some people who normally forge documents, and you can actually get fake forged search results. So you have to be very careful and make sure that the person that you're appointing to conduct the search on your behalf is either a lawyer that you trust, that is an advocate that you really trust, a reputable one, or someone you really trust. This could be one of your family members, so that you don't get forged documents. Number 3 is to make sure that you conduct a survey on the land. I know very many people ignore surveyors and see this as an extra cost for them to call a surveyor to come and check the boundaries of the land. But it is actually a very crucial step that any land buyer should take. This is because you find that they'll provide you with a survey map of the area to actually ascertain that the LR number indicated on the title deed appears on the map as it is. So he will also help you to mark the boundaries of the land, that is through the beacons, and also make sure that the beacons are placed at the right position. So guys, it is very important to pay that extra cost to look for a surveyor to do this for you, to make sure that you don't have issues with land boundaries in future. Another thing that you should be very careful about is meeting the owner of the land or the land seller in person. You should have a physical meeting with the person selling the land, and ask for their ID, that is a copy of their ID, and also the PIN. This is the PIN certificate to get all their details. That is part of due diligence, because you may find that the person who is posing as the owner of the land might not be the registered owner of that property that we are talking about. So you have to be very careful. Make sure you meet the owner of the property or the land, and also make sure that you conduct your due diligence when it comes to their names and PIN, and make sure that it actually belongs to them. The other thing is to visit the land yourself. visit the land and make sure you go around the neighborhood, talk to the neighbors, and ask them about the history of the land, about the owner of the property, and also ask them from the identity card of the person who is selling to you, and ask them if they really know that person, how they know that person, for how long has he owned that land. And you find that you won't fall victim of people who are posing as landowners where they are not the actual owners of that land. The other thing you should dig into is the history of that land. Be aware that there are people who even go ahead to lie about the history of the land through forged documents. So you should make sure that you go to the same neighbors that I've talked about to explain to you about the origin of the land and the history and the way it has been passed on from one person to another. And this can also be achieved through conducting the search on the land. So through the Land Control Board, you can be able to know how the land was succeeded from the original owner to the now current owners. So make sure that you know the history of the land so that you don't fall into maybe family wrangles or boundary issues and any other issues that may come later. The other thing that you should do is to conduct evaluation on the land. You should look for a registered valuer who has vast knowledge about the real estate market and values of that specific area to get the right value for that land. This is to avoid sellers and real estate agents and brokers who might take advantage and sell the property or the land at a higher price. So for you to be able to pay the right amount for that land, you need to look for a valuer to make sure that the value of the land matches the value of the neighborhood and the specific property. So the other thing that you should be careful about is to check the land rates at the lands office for that specific land. You find that most owners actually here in Kenya don't pay land rates. So they keep on accumulating over the years, and for you to avoid incurring extra cost after purchasing that land, you have to make sure that the owner has cleared all the rates at the lands office, and they actually have a clearance certificate for those rates so that you can get clean land without any issues. Another thing that you should look into when buying land is having to sign the sale agreement on payment of deposit. Make sure that the sale agreement is drafted by a reputable lawyer, and there's also all the clauses are included in that sale agreement, of which it should be indicated that you can only pay mostly 10% as deposit for the land, and then clear the balance when the title is registered in your name. So if you have anything to lose in between, you can only lose 10% and not 100%. So just make sure that everything is written down, and you also need the assistance of a lawyer to go through all the clauses and advise where amendments need to be done before signing. Another thing that you should be careful about is authenticity of the title. Apart from just conducting the search, you may find that it's a certificate of title, or it's an allotment letter, or there is even an administration of succession letter. So you need to go to the Land Control Board and make sure that even the consent of transfer of that land is actually in the names of the person selling land to you. This is because there are a lot of con artists forging those documents, including titles, allotment letters, administration of succession, and other ownership documents like certificate of lease and titles to their own advantage. So you also have to make sure that if there are any court cases and restrictions on that specific land or caveats, and you want to see if they were cleared, you'd rather go to the court that was dealing with that specific case, just to make sure that the case was cleared and the stamps are there and everything is clean before you even proceed. This is another way to safeguard yourself from falling into fraud when it comes to buying land in Kenya. If there's maybe a judge who signed the succession, just make sure that on that specific document, if there's a stamp and the name of the judge, you can go to the portal and check if there's a judge who exists with that specific name who signed that document or stamped that document. So in short, you have to be very careful with these documents. The last thing that you should do after purchasing the land and paying 100% for it, when you make sure that your name appears on the title, is to make sure that you fence your land and have the beacons clearly set or positioned. If you can be able to heap some stones on your plot or your land, the better. If there are multiple owners of that land, they will actually appear, because they're going to ask like, who brought building materials over here, or who fenced my land? And also neighbors are going to be alerted and come to know what is actually happening around that land. So it is good to mark your boundaries for you to be able to know if there is something fishy happening within your property. The other thing is to avoid encroachment, and also to avoid having squatters camp over there, and also to have people know that that land belongs to someone. Even if you leave it unattended for some time, you'll find that your land is still there and nobody can come to claim it or start having funny structures on your property. I'll also mention things that you should avoid when buying land. Number one is to avoid buying land of the deceased when the succession matters in court are not yet complete. The other thing is avoid buying or paying the booking fees or a deposit without having signed the sale agreement. The other thing is, do not pay a deposit that is more than 10% without having signed a sale agreement. And also you should be careful on how much you're risking. If you do 10% and something happens in between the transaction, you will have little to lose. Just note that. Another thing you should avoid is developing land without getting the right approvals from the national government or the county government. And the last thing that you should avoid when buying land is to avoid buying land on leasehold tenure that has few years remaining to expiry. We'll also talk about the different types of property ownership documents in Kenya. That is not limited to land only. It includes residential, commercial, industrial, and even agricultural properties in Kenya. So we'll start with the mother title. The mother title is a document that shows the origin of the land or the original owners of that specific land or property. That is before subdivision. So you can actually get to know the history of land through the mother title, because it's the very first title. And also documents in Kenya, that is not limited to land only. It includes residential, commercial, industrial, and even agricultural properties in Kenya. So we'll start with the mother title. The mother title is a document that shows the origin of the land or the original owners of that specific land or property. That is before subdivision. So you can actually get to know the history of land through the mother title, because it's the very first title. And also there's the certificate of title, which is an ownership document acquired after subdivision of land. That is, after subdivision of the original land, you find that most landowners are issued the certificate of titles. And that is normally for freehold land. And then on certificate of lease, the certificate of lease is an ownership document that is normally issued to buyers or property owners who own land on leasehold tenure. That is a limited period of time to own that property, but it's normally renewable. It can be 30 years, 50 years, or 99 years. There is also the sectional title. The sectional title shows the separate ownership of property. That is, you only own a section of a property, and that mostly happens in gated communities where you find that a buyer or an owner owns only one unit in a gated estate. It could be a house or an apartment. There is also an absolute title. An absolute title shows ownership of a property where the owner has maximum rights to that property, including the use of that property. And then there is this allotment letter. An allotment letter is not a property ownership document. It's only the government of Kenya that can only issue an allotment letter to allocate a specific person or company a specific area to use it for certain use for a specific period of time, and then it can either be renewed or the government can take back the land. So you should be very careful about owning property on using these allotment letters, because it's not safe at all. Guys, I hope this is very informative and that you've learned something new today. So stay tuned as I keep educating you more on real estate content. And if you haven't subscribed again, please subscribe and hit that notification bell. Thank you. Bye.